Hello, and welcome to the What Inspires You podcast. My name is Paul.
And I'm Brandon. Join us as we rediscover wonder through inspiring conversation.
Dude, if I'm trying to sleep and there's like even one slight noise that's repetitive,
Yeah.
it's just like I'm going to tear the whole house apart to find that one sound.
Yeah, I don't want noises.
Yeah.
No,
I don't even mind like,
I want silence.
yeah, I would prefer silence for sure. But even if there's like ambient noise or like street noise, it's like that's not as bad as one repetitive noise.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why flies kill me, dude. Because it's just like,
Kill you with noise.
they do, man.
It's like that weird little buzzing noise that they get. It's like triggers you. It's like
Yeah.
as soon as you hear it, you're just like, get away from me. Don't go in my ear.
Yeah. Sounds like a very specific experience you had.
It's specific as in I've had it many, many times.
Oh, man.
With flies trapped in my house.
Yeah.
And then I can't kill them. And then I fall asleep at night and then they wake me up.
Isn't it amazing something so small can have like so much power over a human?
Trauma.
Yeah. Like it's literally like shaping your actions of what you do because of this little bug.
Yeah.
It's like controlling you in a weird way.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of control, no, I'm just kidding. I'll just go first. How about that?
Do it, man.
All right. I know you got something you're excited to talk about.
I do. I do have something.
We'll keep it on the
I
back.
do have a question I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Long, in-depth, pondering question. It'll make you think deep about life.
Okay. Well,
And then
my
I'll
question is.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
do you shoot? Oh man, I don't even know how to ask this in the form of a question. Okay, I'm just gonna skip over that.
Yeah, it's okay.
So my topic is homages. No, I'm just kidding.
Homage?
Homage.
Homage?
Yeah. Dude, what a weird thing, like to copy somebody else or like pay tribute. You know, it's like taking the essence of something and then kind of reframing it and putting it back forward. Because we were actually talking about this a little bit before the episode, but if we were talking about like movie reviews and stuff, and one of the ideas was, what if you just like review the movie, take all the parts you like, and then rewrite a script
Right.
based off of that? It's like that's basically an homage to some extent.
Right.
But the weird thing is like it gets super muddy really fast because like what's copying and what's an homage? You know, it's like how much do you have to make your thing different before it's like, you know, something new and unique? I don't know. Do you have any like?
I mean, I'm thinking about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I knew you were gonna
Where
say
it's
that,
like, yeah, I mean, it's a great example, but yeah, it's like they took the story. If you know the Homer's Iliad, then you know the story of him returning home and kind of what it's like and everything. And so then you can see the parallels, but then at the same time, you can appreciate the kind of adaptation they made with the new movie, new setting, new type of characters, the singing, the comedy of it. And it's like, totally honoring this old film, but then kind of making a funny new film out of it. Like, very clever, very good writing. You know?
The Mandalorian kind of did that with Westerns.
Right, with Westerns.
And
Yep,
it's like,
they did.
it's not even pulling from maybe. And actually, who knows? Like, see, that's the thing. If you don't know the source material, like kids or, you know, a younger person watching the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's like, you would never know that's like based off a Greek, you know, mythological story, right? You just be like, oh, this is super cool and interesting.
Yeah.
And so,
or like Mandalorian felt as though it was a very Clint Eastwood kind of style, you know, just sort of stoic. You never change your face because he has a helmet on.
Makes it pretty easy.
Super quiet, just kind of stone cold killer, you know. Yeah.
See, and the thing is, like with that show, you know, or just other works of art, it's like there might be scenes from that show that are like exact ripoffs of other movies or like other, you know, whatever works of art. And unless you like saw that work of art, you wouldn't know even that was an homage, you know? It would just look like a creative thing and be like, oh man, that scene when he does this or whatever, what a creative scene. And the person is literally like taking it from something else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main person I think about this with is Tolkien.
Oh yeah.
And like literally the name Middle Earth wasn't even something he came up with.
Right. That was like Nordic or something.
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
different concept. And so, I mean, he's taking elves and fairies and all these kinds of things and
Mm-hmm.
repurposing them.
Yeah.
And and obviously everyone's, he is obviously a great creative force and a, creative person that brought about a lot of new stuff. But the bones of everything he did was kind of built off his predecessors. And so, like, it's amazing that you can take that much or borrow that much from what came before and still be like a creative, unique voice in a space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that fascinates me. And so I'm always trying to think like what's that line between, again, just copying and adding some flair to it? Do you think there's kind of a distinction there? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like when I think of copying, I think of you didn't have an original idea, so you just sort of took something that was already good and tried to like use it instead of your own ingenuity. And when I think of a homage to something, I'm thinking you really love this one story, so you took your creativity to expound on that story in a certain way. You took a serious story and you made it a comedy, took a comedy, made it serious. You changed a theme in it that people would recognize but enjoy, and there has to be something more original about it
Yeah.
with those still recognizable parts in the midst of it.
yeah. Did I ever show you Samurai Batman?
No. Samurai
I
Batman?
must have showed you that.
Maybe you did. I don't know.
It's a
What the heck is that?
no, Ninja Batman.
Ninja Batman.
Yeah, that's what it is. So it's like an anime set in feudal Japan, but all the characters are Batman characters.
Okay.
So you have like, the Joker is like a samurai, like Catwoman, and she's like some like Asian princess, You
No
have
way.
so then Batman's obviously a ninja, and he's got like all this like ninja gadgets and stuff. But it's all like, so he doesn't have like a Batmobile
Oh,
necessarily.
man.
He's got like a bat horse or something. I don't know.
A bat horse, like an evil Pegasus horse.
So
A bat
I forget
horse?
exactly what it
Oh
is.
my
but
gosh.
Yeah. And so it ends up, I'll show you it after this, but
Oh,
it
man.
ends up turning into this whole like crazy, like the castles are all mechanized and they all become like walking castles that are like fighting each
Wow.
other. And
Wow.
yeah, there's like sword fights and stuff.
That's insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
Like, I would not have thought of that. That's not. I'd like to think I'm that creative, but I don't know if I would have.
See, but again, it's that creative because they're literally just using Batman characters
Yeah.
and like medieval Japan, like both those things exist. Right. It's like,
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'd have to watch it to really decide, subjectively. But
like I thought it was good. It was interesting.
yeah,
Like the Joker has his own like weird like medieval Japanese origin story. He's like walking through the rice fields and all this kind of anyway. So that's to me and it's almost like you can't get away from paying homage to or like working off the foundations of what came before you, because if you don't, then you're completely unrecognizable, right? Like you can do something completely random and like never before seen, but people won't have any way to like connect to it. So you almost have to keep some of what came before you, but not too much. It's like this fine line of, because if you don't keep anything that came before you, people won't recognize it. People can't engage with your work.
yeah,
If you take too much from what was before you, then it's just blatant copying and stealing.
yeah,
So there is like a fine line balance of you have to take some and like, leave behind other stuff. And so like that process of, creative evolution is kind of weird, It's like, well, I don't know if there's things do you see like things that are important to take forward from the past in like creative work?
yeah. I mean, I definitely think there are old stories that are worth retelling, and there's a lot of old mythology, and it's fun to kind of continue that mythology, either because it's just really important mythology of history or because it's got life lessons and principles that are, the hero's journey, the people overcoming something in some way. The character has to change something about themselves. That's repeated as a trope throughout all kinds of different stories constantly.
Yeah.
But I mean, you
The
see,
struggle of good and evil.
yeah, the struggles of good and evil, things like that. And those are big, large scale, story plot,
Yeah.
arcs that occur.
Yeah, it's funny because like no one ever says like if you see a story with good and evil in it, no one's ever like, oh, that's a cliche.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been done.
Yeah. But if you had some villain and the hero character came to the villain and the villain was like, I am your father, you'd be like, well, there's really only one thing that comes to mind when you have a scenario like that, and it's like either you're directly referencing The Empire Strikes Back from Star Wars,
Yeah.
or you are copying it or whatever it is, but it's like you just can't do that again without people thinking about Star Wars.
But maybe in 100 years you can.
Maybe when culture changes,
Yeah.
and that's no longer at the forefront of people's minds, you could do something like that. But in this moment of time, that would be like on the nose of copying that story,
Yeah. And you just be like, I know where they got that from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what if you put like another twist on that? Like, so maybe it's like the villain is his father, but I don't have the brain power to be creative right now, but
he's a double agent.
yeah, or like he was adopted or something,
Mm-hmm.
It was like it was his adopted father.
Oh yeah.
And so like the reveal is that, oh no, it's his father, but then he finds out later it's actually like not his biological father or something. That'd be kind of interesting.
That's why he's evil.
Oh, gosh, yeah, sure.
I don't know. Yeah,
You'd have to like play with it a little bit. You couldn't just do like I'm your father. It's
or
the
like,
bad guy.
yeah, it's, if you had that story, but it was a different outcome, like Luke or whoever the hero character is like, okay, I'll join you.
Yeah.
That'd
be
then
kinda interesting.
Then it would be like, oh, it's like you're retelling the Star Wars story, except you made an alternate ending,
Yeah.
And then that would be an interesting story,
So like having, yeah. So maybe it's about like learning then. And so you have to like, if stories are a way of playing out scenarios to like learn from them without doing it yourself in some case, maybe, it has to be something that's not told yet. Like what makes us latch onto stories is things that we haven't experienced yet that we get to like experience vicariously through stories. So it's like retelling the same story is almost a sin because you're not learning in some sense, or you're not teaching people or showing people new ways. You're just stagnating. Whereas if you make something creative and novel enough to teach people something new or a new outcome from a slightly different scenario, you're still providing value by teaching people.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's why I ask you the big questions, Brandon.
That's right. That's right. I'm here to answer those big questions for you people. Don't think for yourself. Let me think for you.
Mind control. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Because I wonder about these things for myself in my own writing. It's like, I used to just try to go on the far side of avoiding any sort of familiarity with anything. But then
It's like almost impossible.
it's not impossible, but your writing just gets really weird. So it's like you can write stuff that like is totally like you can write a name that no one's ever seen before, but it just sounds like gibberish because it's completely unrecognizable.
Right.
So it's like Glopdorp. It's like someone can write that as a character, but it has no ties to anything. And so people just see that name and it's like, it almost is, it's also even harder to stick in your mind because you don't have any context or file to put that in. Whereas if you hear a name like, I don't know, Alexander, sure, Bob or Alexander, it's like you're automatically thinking Greek, or you have these other like, you're thinking like strong name, you're thinking Library of Alexandria, you're thinking, like there's just connections that happen in your mind when you hear like a certain name. And so it's like cementing subconscious ideas into people's heads based off things that have already been built up through history and culture and context. So like for me, like it's almost a way to like add extra information without overloading people with it, So like for me in my stories, I've started to do like for names, for instance, like I'll just make Lord of the Rings sounding names, you know, because I like those names. And it's like I just want to draw a connection to those in that way. You know, it's like they're not the same names, but they sound similar or whatever, just kind of rearranged a little bit. And it's a way to like hopefully put people in like a similar space how they feel when they're reading Lord of the Rings or whatever, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like
Brodo.
the main character, yeah. Except in this one, he's tall. He's 7 feet tall. And he has smooth feet. And he always wears shoes.
And he doesn't like fancy food.
Yeah. And he drinks alcohol instead of smoking stuff.
Oh, man.
He's a raging alcoholic. Yeah, so it's, yeah, you know, so it's like you can kind of subconsciously inform people by using similar things and so I used to think that was just like the worst thing ever, but I think it's a great way to shortcut some ideas into your, or like help people build like an emotional connection to things. And so like I'm sure Tolkien and Lewis were doing the same thing, you know, with their writings.
Yeah.
They were trying to connect to like, you know, medieval fantasy and stuff like that, you know, by using elves and goblins and all these different little things.
And see, here we are years later, and we've lost the cultural relevance of what they were connecting to. So it's like Norse mythology. We don't really know lots of Norse mythology today outside of maybe like, you know, Thor, God of Thunder, you know,
God of Love and Thunder.
Yeah, that's right. And so, you know, today it's like, yeah, you know, there's like the Thor Greek god dude and Vikings and like, I don't know, we don't really know a whole lot else. So if you get into more minute stories of Norse mythology, we're going to get lost on that. And so then if he retells a lot of those tales in his own version, we look at it and we just think it's original because we don't know the source material, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of interesting too, because then it's like it is kind of in some ways keeping that Norse mythology alive.
Yeah,
you know, because you're like, you might not know Norse mythology, but like in Tolkien, like he has a whole Ragnarok scenario. I forget what it's called, but do you remember what it's called?
The
like,
Ragnarok?
Yeah, there's like an end. He has like a end of the world battle that happens like when everyone's kind of like resurrected and like fights again. The Daggerlath is what it's called. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Okay, Daggerlath.
Yeah, and so basically it's like his end of the world Ragnarok situation where it's like Sauron comes back one last time and everyone kind of like fights it out.
Oh, interesting.
And then like the world is kind of remade at that point.
That's interesting.
I wonder where he got that from.
Yeah, it sounds like a biblical thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Book of Revelations thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So you have I mean, these ancient stories being kept alive in different ways, you know, and so it's like, even though you don't know the old Norse mythology, it's like if you're reading Tolkien or Lewis or whatever, you're like actually getting mythology or patterns of mythology in your writing still. And it might be the same way, you know, it's like if you copy Tolkien, it's like, you know, you might copy those themes just even unknowingly. You know, it's like the Song of Creation or whatever. If you like that, you know, and you kind of transmit that into your work, then, you know, you're kind of carrying forward a lot of these like ancient traditions that believe like the world was started with song or, you know, they were singing or something.
Yeah, that was a great opening at the very beginning of the Silmarillion. That whole, the world was made and there were songs, and then the Valar were singing it, and then the one Valar like sang his own song, and so then it created discord. And it was like, dude, that was a very good origin story to a world. It's like, very clever, you know?
Right. Yeah, singing is, I could, I've got a backlog of things to talk about on our podcast, but singing is one of them.
Okay.
And like music and music theory, but
okay.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know, yeah, it is interesting, like trying to parse out, you know, because you do a little bit of writing, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like especially fictional writing.
Yeah,
fiction. How much do you draw on other like stories and stuff when you're looking for inspiration or trying to like come up with stuff?
How much do I draw? I don't know. I would say maybe like 30 or 40% of my ideas. I think, I wonder if I could take this thing from something I love and just sort of like twist it into my own version, you know? And then,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm gonna fit that in like right in here. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would say there's quite a bit that
What's
think
one
about.
major thing you stole? I mean, borrowed.
A major thing that I stole or borrowed or something from like another story. Gosh,
We'll just call it borrowed.
I borrowed. Hmm.
Did you pick Mars after you watched The Martian?
No.
Matt Damon.
No. Well, I would say I kind of took something of an idea from well, okay, a couple of things I'm thinking about. One, I would say I took an idea from the story Red Rising, which is from Pierce Brown on the planet of Mars. That's kind of this like, you know, Braveheart story of the elitists of Mars and then kind of like the low people of Mars who are like the miners that like, you know, are forgotten or whatever. And then the one guy who rises up to like tackle the system. I would say there's some of that. But I would say that was told more in the histories of the world that I created. That's not as much like the current story that I'm telling. It's more like this is kind of the background of the story almost. That it was like a very elite world and there were kind of the people on top and the people on bottom. And then there were
The Morlocks.
the Morlocks. The gold people. I can't remember what it was in Red Rising, but the golds, and then I would say maybe I took some ideas from Mortal Engine because I actually read all of those books.
I just watched that movie the other day.
Did you? I've actually never watched the movie, but I read all the books. And I don't know, the books were okay, but there was kind of an interesting thing. I mean,
it's got great world building.
yeah, I really liked the world building. It was really fun. I mean, I loved the cities are almost like these monsters, but they're kind of like controlled by people. And it's sort of this like Howl's Moving Castle, but then they're like going around eating each other. And there's just like silly things about it. It's like, okay, whatever. This is.
Okay, I do have to ask one question about that though. Was there like a Trinity Matrix girl in that series?
Kinda.
Okay, because in the movie, there's like literally a girl that like kind of like that Asian like Matrix looking.
Oh,
with,
yeah?
like, dark glasses and like a leather trench coat.
Oh, the appearance wise, I don't know if the appearance was exactly like that, but yeah, maybe.
I forgot what her name was.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Din or something.
I've kind of forgotten some of the characters.
Okay, but yeah, she like literally just like comes out with like a shotgun and is like doing Matrix moves and stuff. I was like, wait a second.
I don't know. I can't quite remember, but
Yeah.
I just remember, I mean, some of the characters I remember, there was like the father who was like not the super great guy you wanted him to be. There's like the daughter who the story's all about. And then there was like kind of this robot creature that like was sort of evil but kind of good. And
Okay, maybe this movie had nothing to do with the books then.
oh, okay. Well, there's kind of like this crazy robot killer guy, and he kind of ends up being like a good robot killer,
yeah.
but
Okay, yeah.
he was like originally like evil, but then kind of became good or whatever.
Shoot, what was his name?
I can't remember what his name was.
No,
But
Wrath or something.
at the very end of the book, it's well. Do you want me to spoil it for you?
I watched the movie, so I know what happens.
Oh yeah.
They go to break down the wall, and
Well, I'm talking about the very end of like the 3-part trilogy.
oh sure, yeah.
So like this is like how the whole story like ends.
Yeah, I'm not going to read.
I don't
YA
think
fiction quite.
I don't think they made another movie after the first one because I think it kind of flopped. So I don't know if they're ever going to make another one. Yeah, but in the very end, it's like they. Oh yeah, that's right, Hester. That's right.
That was the girl's name.
They defeat all the bad guys and everybody's kind of dead, and then the robot basically is like the one thing that can remain because he kind of like lives forever or whatever. And so
He's the real immortal engine.
That's right. And so then he basically is just like lost in the sands of time or whatever. And it's like 1,000 years go by. And then there's like little kids that find him like digging in the ground, and they like find his little robot body. And it's like basically the modern day today. And so it's almost this idea that like long ago, this was
far away.
some sort of like prequel of human history, ancient lost civilization that all like went extinct, and then like the modern humans like came around today.
See, there's a cliche right there.
Yeah, right. And I always kind of loved those stories. That was like there was some like wild civilization, technology, like fascinating events of human history that just got like lost to time, and that like that's actually what was happening in the world like 10,000 years ago or whatever. And
Yeah.
then today we just have no knowledge of it. And I love that kind of thing in stories. And so I do have sort of that type of idea in some of my story, that it's like there's some crazy thing that happened like 1,000 years ago, but nobody knows what it was. And we're sort of living in the aftermath of whatever that thing was. And I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Actually, Lord of the Rings kind of did a good job of that, like the actual Lord of the Rings book.
yeah.
When like, you know, they're going and they like see these runes and there's Weathertop, you know, and there's like the Barrow Downs, and it's like everything's kind of pointing at that there was like, you know, this kind of, you know, the Numenorians or whatever. There was always like this, you know, bigger race, like races that like had lived in the past that were like super glorious, you know, and it's like the little hobbits are kind of traveling through and they're, you know, seeing these old guard towers and watchtowers and, you know, Orthanc used to be this and that, and Helm's Deep was a great fortress. And, you know, it's like, they're kind of like almost like it's like the apocalypse tour or something, you know?
I always feel like it makes for really good world building when there's like ancient ruins within a story, you know, when there's like there's archaeology, there's history, there's yes, this is the destroyed castle of so and so from 500 years ago, and yes, this is the history of that thing. You know, when everything looks like new and fresh, and this is the first time anyone has ever been to this valley, it's like I don't know, somehow it feels like there's no history in that world, you know? So
Which, I mean, I think can be kind of interesting depending on the tone you're going for. But if you do want your world to seem like depth and like old, Lord of the Rings just feels old, right?
Yeah.
Am I just, or maybe I'm alone thinking that, but it just feels like such
a forest is old.
Yeah. Everything.
Gandalf is old.
Yeah. Even the hobbits.
Everybody's old.
Yeah.
Even the hobbits are like 50.
Yeah. Right.
In the book.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone like lives to like old ages. It feels like the Out of the Silent Planet, like the first book, you know, where he goes to Mars and everything's kind of like, you know, the air is still, and, you know, it's like the air is thin in space, and, you know, things are kind of like the tribes aren't very flourishing of the different creatures, and there's solitary Sorns and all this kind of stuff, you know. It's like a great way to set like the mood for being like old and kind of slow and and whatnot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you like Lord of the Rings so much, too.
Maybe. I like old people stories.
It's the old man soul.
I like Fred Rogers stories.
I don't know who that is.
Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I didn't know his name was Fred.
Yeah, Fred.
Interesting.
Hey, Fred. Fred Flintstone.
Mr. Rogers sounds so much better.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers. Yeah, it does sound better. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about my...
Homage.
Yeah.
Homage.
I could think about this stuff all day.
Homage is a fun word.
It is.
It's fun to say.
I like saying homage sometimes.
Homage.
Yeah.
Homage.
Homage is fun too.
Homage.
Homage.
Homage is like worshiping something, or, you know, it's like honoring something.
Yeah.
They paid homage to this person, whatever, you know.
Yeah. Or they paid homage to it.
Paid homage.
I'm just kidding.
Depends how you want to say it.
Yeah. Anyway. What inspires you, Brandon Cook?
Well, what inspires me?
Is it Fred Rogers?
Well, he does inspire me, but that's not what I was going to talk about today. I have a question for you. Would you rather be blind or deaf?
Probably deaf.
You would rather be deaf. You don't want to lose your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do a lot more with my eyes than I do with my ears.
Okay. Well, so you haven't been listening to me this whole time.
But I've seen you.
I saw your mouth move.
I read your lips really well. Oh, hey, yeah. You can't say that to me.
How dare you? No, so, well, okay, that's interesting. I was going to say I'd rather be blind, and I would rather hear things.
Wow.
Yeah, I would rather hear. And the reason I say that is because I feel like I just could not live without music. I really don't feel like I could, honestly. There's just so much good music out there.
Wow.
And I think what inspires me especially is how many different instruments there are. I did a cursory Wikipedia Google search earlier, and there's like 1,500 plus different instruments,
Wow.
and they're put into like, I don't know, 5 or 6 categories. There's
Yeah.
like
Wind,
instruments, brass, percussion, the guitar family. Let's see, is it woodwind? Maybe that's just wind. I don't know. There's wood something, and then it's like
electronic.
Keyboard. Maybe wait, maybe it's wind. Maybe wood and woodwind. I think are the same thing. Keyboard, and then bowed strings. So like violins, cello,
So these
stuff
are like
like that.
classical instruments, like not
I mean, I think this is just all instruments.
like electronic instruments, right?
I mean, I think that would fall under like keyboard or something, like a synthesizer.
Sure.
Like that would be keyboard, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Or like electric
'cause if you're
electric guitar. I mean, it's like the guitar family.
if you're
know?
thinking like piano, like that's like almost a percussion thing because the mallets will hit the strings. But if you're thinking like keyboard, like electric keyboard, then I could see a lot of electric stuff falling into that.
Yeah.
Because like, what would a theremin be?
I don't even know what that word means.
Like it's a box, like an electric box that has a loop, like a electric coil loop on it, and then it's got an antenna on this side, and you play. I think it's one of the only instruments you play by not touching it. And so you put your hand in, and it measures like the resistance of the frequency, and you change pitch like based on where your hand is in this array of like electric field.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
And then, I mean, that's just instruments. You have a whole nother, just your amazing singing, which is like, wow, just being able to have your own instrument built into the body.
Didn't I just say we were going to talk about music theory sometime?
Yeah, you did talk about music a second ago, and I didn't want to give away the flagship of what I was going to talk about, so I just sort of was like, yes.
Nice.
Yes, music, yes. What about that? Yes. But no, I think it's just fascinating how many instruments there are, how many different cultures have their own instruments, how crazy it is when you mix instruments together and what that can sound like. And I just think it's wild. I mean, it just, I don't know, it blows my mind how people are so obsessed with their instrument. It's like crazy how into the instrument people get. And they get so good, and they just know every little detail about it, and just weird little sounds they can make. And it's like a crazy Smeagol in the cave just petting the ring over and over again thing. It's like, how can you be this into the drums, the guitar, the violin?
Are you thinking like instruments inspire you or music?
I'm saying more instruments. I think instruments inspire me, and what people do with instruments. Just how, not even the music they play, just how skilled they are at tapping the little keys, hitting the strings just right. The obsession people have throughout their life to be dedicated to these instruments. The variety of instruments that we have.
People give up their hands for a golden fiddle.
That's right. They give up their hands to have like devil hands to play the
robot
fiddle,
devil hands.
Yeah, robot devil hands or whatever. Yeah. But I just, it's like, man, it's fascinating looking at how humans have just clung to this thing of music,
Yeah, and it doesn't show any signs of dying out.
No. It's like, I think as long as we're alive, we'll be really into musical instruments.
Yeah.
And
dude, I watched one guy. he hooked up his synthesizer to mushrooms.
Oh.
And his mushrooms play a synthesizer for him.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so he runs like a bunch of basically you get to hear what different mushrooms sound like as he plugs them in.
Oh.
Because he's basically you're running a current through the mushroom, and so each mushroom will have its own interference pattern, and so it'll make like specific sounds to that mushroom. And so it plays so it'll do like a synthesizer loop and it'll be like unique to that mushroom.
Wow.
It's super crazy.
Let me guess. And this is the perfect music to synthesize with your shroom trip or something like that?
I don't know that he's done any like psychoactive mushrooms, but
okay.
like he does all kinds of different ones, like cordyceps, like the ones that take over ants and like make them hang upside down and then like eat their brain and then pop out. And Yeah. It's dude. Okay. And yeah, this is too much of a tangent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Music just got dark.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, music I think is fascinating. I was actually thinking about that movie Whiplash, where he's just so obsessed with the music. He's like willing to do whatever it takes, to like be the best drummer he can be.
What's his phrase? Are you lagging or are you leading? Is that
Yeah, he says something. Yeah. Yeah, he's like constantly yelling at them, even though they're like playing perfectly. He just like constantly acts like they're not playing good enough, and just whatever it takes to push these musicians as hard as they can go, and stress them out like crazy. And yeah,
time to sue that college.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. Seriously, it's like, okay, yeah, that's talk about stress.
Yeah,
that's inappropriate stress, student abuse. No, but yeah, it's just, I think it's fascinating, though, how people would just endure that, like they're willing to do what it takes to become the best with the instrument,
Yeah.
It's just, I feel, there's plenty of things that people become obsessed with, sports or money or other kinds of things. Everybody's got like weird obsessions, but there's just something about instruments that it seems... I don't know. It seems like maybe that obsession seems almost more honorable in a way. There's something about watching a good musician play and listening to them that's like...
It was all worth it.
Yeah. It's just like, wow, that is beautiful. Like, I am so happy that you were obsessed with that so that I could enjoy it, Like, I don't know if I always feel that way about athletes or about other things. It's like, well, that's cool. Like, you're really good at running fast or whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
But when somebody plays a good music and they're just so talented with whatever their instrument is, it's like, oh yes, I love that.
It's like a more not altruistic, but because I'm sure they don't care about other people necessarily.
Yeah, they probably just care about getting lots of money, recognition.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's got their own reasons, but yeah, no, that is true. It's like it's something that kind of affects people. Well, do you think people get emotional watching athletes?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think they do. If it's the Olympics.
I don't think I ever have, but yeah. Like,
maybe when people finish an Ironman run.
Yeah, but like watching someone else.
But if they're watching like the Super Bowl, I don't know.
Yeah.
They had too many chicken wings.
The emotion is an upset stomach.
There's not, I don't think there's a lot of emotion.
Is the cheesy nacho sauce coming out?
The emotion is that you're happy you beat your friend's team.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Okay, yeah, so maybe music is a more put something good out into the world, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah. It's when I hear like good music, especially like good classical music, it's like somehow it just feels like, this is what the world was meant to be. I don't know.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
I like those feelings.
This is probably the music that God designed to make.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a high bar.
Not rap.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever felt that with rap, to be honest.
Mozart was probably a secret angel.
Yeah, that's why I could play at 4. Yeah, no, I've felt that actually with that is interesting, that feeling you're describing, because I've felt that with some music where it's like you're like, man, this is probably what like people are going to be doing in heaven, like some version of this.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Headbanging.
Oh, dude, I got a good song to show you afterwards.
I don't know about headbanging.
I did feel like like a metal song, but
yeah. You felt the stirring of your soul.
Nightwish, dude.
A burning of the bosom.
Yep, Nightwish, man.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
The Namus used to listen to it.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I just sort of blocked out whatever they listened to.
They have like the female singer, and they're like a metal band.
Oh yeah, they always loved like female like drummers or singers.
Yeah, they have a type.
They didn't want to have female bass players, but if it was a female drummer, it was hot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just because they like singing high, so they wanted like.
That's right.
Like a band they could sing along to.
I think you're right, actually.
But anyway,
enough talking about our friends.
Yeah, hey Ryan. But yeah, no, that is interesting with how many. Yeah, like when the music makes you feel like. Yeah, speaks to what's right in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of music would you say does that though? Can't be a lot, right?
Like 5%.
Yeah.
Whatever's not on the top 100 Billboard listing right now. whatever's not under
It's
the
not Taylor Swift.
yeah, whatever's not on the most popular tracks. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something, especially classical music or like really good vocals or singing.
I've got a song to show you after
That
this.
just like you listen to that music and you just think like, this is what the world was like before sin. I don't know. It's like this is like a glimpse of just like something angelic or something like above humanity.
That's why I go to the Orthodox Church, dude.
Yeah,
It's all sung.
it's all singing.
Yeah, it's all singing. It's all choir.
In Latin.
No, English.
In Russian.
I wish. That'd be cool. I would actually be probably cooler in Latin too. But yeah, I mean, it's weird, like the science of like voices and like if you have a choir, especially, it is weird because it like somehow creates like the resonances like with each other somehow create like more than the sum of their parts.
Yeah.
It's super trippy. There's like weird science behind it too, of like increasing amplitude waves, when they like cross and like basically it's kind of like almost how oceans work, with like currents and like combining currents and waves and stuff like that. Like sound works pretty similarly, but yeah, it's cool because a lot of the churches are actually designed to enhance the human voice and sound and like reflect it in certain ways and amplify it. So like a lot of the domes at the top, they'll actually collect sound, mix it up, amplify it, and send it back to the people.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and depending on like the materials you use, certain kind of plasters and stuff like that, it'll actually like start to change the sound properties. And so like the people singing, like they could be singing in one corner and like the best place to hear them is like just some like this one spot over here, because of the way the sound's like bouncing. And yeah, and like they don't need microphones or anything,
right?
But it makes it like the whole space fills up with sound.
Yeah,
I really want to go to like a real cathedral or like something like that, or like a real like monastery or something.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
cool.
sick.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, have you ever heard a pipe organ in person?
I have not, but that would be super cool to hear.
Dude.
Yeah, I would love to go to some European cathedral and listen to Interstellar.
That'd be cool.
That would be super cool.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, what was it? The story with Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, like they wrote the soundtrack and they said, we're going to do some crazy organ music. And they found some guy in Europe who was like the organ player at a church or whatever in some cathedral. And so they went there in person to listen to him in his cathedral.
Wow.
And they gave him the sheet music and I think he'd been practicing it for a few days and they were like, okay, this is really complex organ music. Like not a lot of people play organ these days. Like I'm sure this guy's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then they sat down and listened to him in the church and just sat there and listened to him play it. And he like totally nailed it.
Wow.
And it was just so the whole building is like vibrating while you're listening. I mean, it's so powerful listening to this like building play music, what a wild concept.
Dude, have you ever seen like some of those church organs? Like
they're huge.
They, like,
it's like the whole wall.
Yeah, they build them into the church sometimes.
Yeah.
And you gotta like power them up. And it's like this whole like your instrument is the building.
Yeah.
It's like kind of insane.
Which I know, thinking about instruments, it's like, okay, what do you play? I play the triangle. What do you play? I play like the organ. My instrument's a building. You're gonna have to come to this building to listen to me. Yeah. It's like, oh, could you fly over to LA and bring your organ with you? Like, no, I can't. You can come to my building and listen to me play.
Like literally, like the acoustics are like the space in the church, or whatever. Yeah,
which is fascinating because then your instrument literally becomes a work of architecture as well.
Yeah.
Like this is also a construction project, which is fascinating.
Which is kind of like how a guitar works to some extent. It's like you have a hollow space inside the body of the guitar. So it's like there is architecture that like goes into building, guitar. It's just the organ is a much bigger scale,
Yeah, it's true.
Which is insane. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear like a big organ sometime.
Yeah.
That'd be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny actually. Speaking of instruments, I was working with a kid the other day, and we just played music for like an hour and a half. It was super fun. We went. They have like a little box of just basic instruments, down in the like little swing room, and so we just took them out and we started was just fun watching like a kid, like for the, interact with music, in just a pure way. And it was like, he made little beats, and then he was like conducting it. He was like, within 10 minutes, he was making his own song. He's like, okay, this is my part. And then you come in and do this thing. And then when I do the, when I wave the wand, then you stop and my part goes. And then he was like arranging a whole song.
Wow.
With like little instruments.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. And then when I do 3 taps, then it's the wild parts. And I would just do like my little drum solo and stuff. And then
that's cool.
It's like,
man.
okay, now it's the triangle part. And then we do the triangles.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you do for the vocals?
I didn't do vocals. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes he would sing, but yeah, it was for the most part instrumental.
That's cool though. So, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to have like a little pure experience with like instruments, 'cause it's like you can really overcomplicate it. Again, if you need to be the master, we're talking about the people who master their instruments. It's like kind of fun to be on the opposite end of that spectrum where it's like a creative play space,
Just gonna bang around, see what happens.
Kinda, yeah. It's just like I'm gonna hit that, and at certain points, I was like tapping on the floor and then tapping on the wall, like keeping beats, and I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, and then I'll go find like a doorknob and play on that for a little while. It's like, this is like fun exploration.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is fun.
Do you miss playing guitar?
Yeah, I miss playing guitar. I definitely think that I could spend more time getting back into instruments. I would enjoy spending more time doing that. I don't know if I have the time to go do that, but
that's fair.
I know, like, for folks who just spend hours every day practicing songs and techniques and, learning more and more about music, it's like, in the beginning, it's monotonous and boring. But once you're really good, I'm sure that it's very enjoyable because you're like, I just played something super awesome and everybody loved it. And I like, it's like, I bet you it's more fun when you get good.
Yeah, but if that's your motivation, then you're always chasing that high, right? Of people loving your stuff. And then the second you don't get some validation, you're like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah. No, that's true. If that's your sole motivation, then that would be a bummer. You got to just enjoy it for the act of playing it itself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think about I've always enjoyed those YouTube videos where there's like somebody at a random train stop and they like get on the piano and they're like kind of dinking around and then suddenly they like unleash this amazing Mozart and there's like 50 people, they're all stopping and watching and you're just like, whoa, like nobody knew this guy could play an amazing piano song.
The random violinist comes out of the crowd and also joins them in.
That's right. Some random person that's like, you were planted,
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Bands show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Play perfectly.
Or I was watching like a street mob the other day or like a mall. It was like a mall mob, like a bunch of random people just suddenly go to the middle of the mall and they just start like singing songs and they like are mic'd and they like are into the PA system of the mall. And then all the people in the mall are gathering around watching and they're playing something from like a musical or whatever.
Okay.
And, it's like, oh man, that's pretty fun,
It is cool. Fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely catches people off guard. Gets them out of their like little routine. Which is cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I like that stuff.
If you could choose just picking up an instrument instantly, which would
piano
play?
Yeah. If I could just instantly be good at piano, I would do it.
Instantly be Bo Burnham.
If I could. Oh, this song is people who are on fire.
I could do that song.
Yeah, I could play that. Oh man.
Jesus can walk on water. Can a fish swim on land? What is? No, I forgot what it was.
I think I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Well, maybe not him, but I'd be a talented pianist somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The only downside is you have to say the word pianist all the time.
Yeah, that's right. I play the piano. I'm a piano master.
Piano is my specialty.
Piano is my specialty. Isn't there a name for that? It's piano master.
Piano guy.
Jedi piano master. That's what you call me.
Yeah.
Lord of the piano. Pianist. Oh, no.
Nope, you ruined it. You ruined it.
That's not what it is. Don't say that.
No, thank you. Yeah, right. Yeah, no other No other instrument has to go through that, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Trombonist sounds kind of weird, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You play the guitar? Yeah, man, I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
Guitarist. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that
It's
sounds cool.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Since you're
drummer, drums, drummer.
Yeah, drummer. I'm a drummer in a band. I'm the singer, you know.
Yeah.
As soon as you're the pianist, it's like every little 13-year-old boy is like giggling at you, you know. It's like,
Yeah.
I think he said penis. It's like, okay.
Grow up.
Okay. He's a master of the musical arts.
That's why I can't watch that movie. Adrian Brody, whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Instruments are insane, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the voice is super underrated. I think people don't. I mean, it's underrated and rated at the same time, but I think there's a reason why, like, singing, you know, and you know, Tolkien's, you know, a lot of these old mythological stories, or, you know, in the Bible, it's always all the angels are always singing. Like, there's something speaks to like the language of creation or something. I don't know. You know, there's like some fundamental. It taps into some fundamental reality. I don't know if it's quantum physics, if it's, you know, string theory or something, whatever it is, but there's definitely like a power there. And I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because singing is more direct in terms of communication, you know? Like, because you have words and lyrics, whereas you could still have a form of communication, you could still have emotion, you can have feeling, you could even try to create like story through instrumental music, but it's more subtle. It's harder to pick that up, you know? You kind of have to be more astute to the music, whereas lyrics, it could be really direct. It could be really in your face, you know? And so there can be powerful lyrics that when you hear that, you're like, oh, I resonate with the story of this person, the feeling that they're expressing, the situation that they're describing. I've been in that. And so I think you can connect with the vocals much easier than just instruments.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, the interesting thing too is like vocals could be instrumental in a weird way. It's like you could just not say anything and use the voice as an instrument that, like, you know.
That's true. You can just be like,
Who's made me spit?
I'm actually thinking about in Dune, there's like that really good singing where she's just like, and it's like she's not saying words.
Yeah, but
she's
it connects somewhere.
She's making noises.
Yeah.
You know, but even still, it's like a human made those noises. This is like human singing noises, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that you can like hit so many ranges as a human is pretty
That's also very
too.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like not many other instruments can do that necessarily.
Yeah.
But like, and I guess once you're like an adult man or something, you hit less notes or whatever. But
well, it's interesting because we literally have like violin strings in our throat, you know?
Yeah.
Like inside your trachea, you have the larynx, the voice box, which literally is vocal cords, like just like a stringed instrument, like you have strings and the air is passing by them. And depending on how tight or loose they are, changes the tone that you have.
Isn't that wild?
It's like you literally have a stringed instrument in your throat, like right here.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild.
Yeah. It's so trippy.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can actually even control it to that extent.
And we just control it like nonchalant, like you don't really think about it. You just sort of like say and do and whatever, you know?
Yeah, I was looking at this podcast is like literally here just to reveal all my weird YouTube trends, but I was watching like robotic like bird flight the other day.
Okay.
You know, and it was like
That's cool. That's cool, man.
I know. I exposed all my weird tangents. But
robotic bird flight. That's cool.
How the CIA makes their birds.
Yeah, that's all right.
Birds aren't real, but
continue.
You know, and it's like, you know, they make these, you know, motors and, you know, like engineering things to like replicate bird flight, you know, but it's like they're only getting a fraction of the efficiency that a bird gets because it's like, dude, birds are like controlling, like sometimes down to the feather, like how much tilt, pitch, yaw, all these things their wings are doing, and even bats, right? They have like basically their wings are like leathery, and they kind of cover like they have like a finger basically, or a hand that like is their wing. And so they have, and then, but in between all like the finger joints, there's like actually like little micro muscles.
Wow.
So they can actually control like each, like even, some of the surface of like the leathery parts of their wing.
Wow.
To get like insane control. And it's just like, no one had to teach them how to do that.
Yeah.
Like they just like are like literally using physics and like even accounting for wind and like weather conditions. It's like if it's more humid out, that changes how they fly, because that changes like the air density. So there's just like there's thousands of things they're computing subconsciously just through sheer instinct.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the voice is one of those things where it's like it's a miracle people can talk at all.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, the level of complexity that you would have to be playing on an instrument in order to hit a person speaking, I mean, it just seems wild.
Yeah.
Creating all those little articulate sounds, the nuances, the differences of one person's voice. Every person has like a different voice. Everybody sounds different.
Yeah.
Like, how do humans not all sound exactly the same? I mean, that's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just...
Like if you had to like manually compute it, it's like, okay, how much air do I push back past the...
Yeah. How fast does the airflow happen? How thick? How much air? What's the level of tension that's occurring? The placement of the vocal cords.
Right.
There's just so many little components that can go into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of like that Alex Jones metal thing we were watching, It's like the guy is playing on his guitar to match the person's voice, So there is like some amount of that you can do, but it's like always sub whatever the voice is, It's like,
yeah, like because everybody speaks with a tone and they kind of hit little notes, and you can hit those same tonal notes with an instrument, but you could not articulate, you could not create the word formation through an instrument.
Yeah.
Like only the human vocal could do that.
Isn't that weird?
Even animals can't really do that. Like parrots can. You can kind of do like a little bit of word creation.
Yeah.
But you really don't get word creation outside of a human's vocal cords. It's very difficult.
Or AI.
Or AI recreating it.
But that's digital, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting. What a strange world, man.
Strange world.
All right.
Strange
We should
world.
wrap it up because I got a few things to show you.
Yeah, I got to take a nap. All right. Vocals, instruments, and whatever Paul talked about. I've already forgotten it, erased it from my memory. Homage.
Go to sleep, Brandon.
Yeah, just a homage to Paul's topic right there,
Perfect.
I just wanted to recreate it in my own words out of my creativity.
Perfect. All right, thanks for joining us. See you next time.